Inspired by kingdom principles that work for you.
Hello, welcome to Forward, Upward, Onward Together, a show as a part of the RBN network. My name is Kerry Turnquist and I'll be your host. Forward, Upward, Onward Together is also our national motto, and it speaks to us being progressive, open-minded, optimistic, and unifying. And so in this show, we'll be discussing national issues, topical issues, and the solutions that we have to solve them. We'll also be looking at a pandemic and a post-pandemic Bahamas and the possibilities that we have presented to us as well. We know that the possibilities are endless. Today's discussion is interesting in normal times. We'll be discussing education, but it's particularly important and relevant in today's environment. We know that the Ministry of Education recently released their guidelines, and starting October 5th, schools in around the Commonwealth of the Bahamas will be starting school, and those in New Providence and in other islands will be in a purely virtual environment. We know that private schools will probably be starting earlier. And so we'll be discussing the virtual learning environment as well as the solutions for parents and students to excel in this particular environment. So I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She has an undergraduate education in psychology and has many hours in school counseling. She has graduate specialties in substance abuse counseling as well as organizational leadership and learning. She has worked at the Department of Social Services, the Sandlands Rehabilitation Center, and is now fulfilling her dream as a high school counselor. Andranique Evans-Bethel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you. So let's just jump right on in. What are some of the challenges that parents and students have faced in the virtual learning environment? We know that this is our second wave and our second time in going through the virtual learning environment that would have started in March. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that students and parents have faced.
Okay. Well, basically, everybody across the spectrum, parents, students, educators, we have all experienced challenges, and each challenge is kind of unique to the various situations that we all are in. And we find that with the younger children, of course, some of them cannot work independently, so they're going to need the support of their parents to guide them through. And so that was a major challenge with working with our younger students. Of course, they're going to need longer breaks in between their lessons. They're going to need a little bit more interactivity with their lessons, etc. And so those were the challenges that we encountered, as opposed to the older children who were able to manage on their own to a certain extent. But we find with all age groups, there is the challenge of being socially distanced from their friends and their peers. You know, children are social creatures, and so that was kind of hard for them. They had a hard time adjusting to this new norm, which caused anxiety and, other stressors, not being able to manage regulate their emotions effectively. So these are the challenges that we had during the first wave.
Thank you so much. What resources are available for those, and tell us what's needed in the virtual environment and for students to learn in this environment?
Okay. Well, the Ministry of Education had provided many resources during the first wave, and they intend to continue with that. And they've added some other elements to it. So as you may be aware, the Ministry of Education had their lessons virtual as well, online. So parents could have registered to have access to those online resources. In addition to that, they aired the lessons, pre-recorded lessons on cable television. And so that was another avenue that parents could have used to access virtual learning. And there are other things. I know moving forward, the public library is going to be open and available for students who have limited resources or no resources at all.
So what about those students who don't have access to computers and don't have, high-speed internet? What resources are available for them?
Okay, yeah, so as mentioned earlier, I know that moving forward, public libraries are going to be made available for persons who need to have internet access and access to computers, etc. Community centers, I know that there are urban renewals in some neighborhoods. I know the Foxville community has a community center as well, where there are computers and there is access to internet as well. And we got to go back to being community minded, and we have to build support systems within our communities and within our families so that we can either pool our resources or share our resources moving forward. And this is something that was done in years past, and I feel that it can definitely work in these times once we connect with people who we trust and people whom we can rely on as well.
For sure. As they say, it really takes a village to raise a child, and we're going to need all hands on deck to make this work, as you
Yes.
say. And so it's important that we go back to our old-time Bahamian heritage, just so that we can overcome a lot of the challenges that we have regarding the educational learning.
Yes.
So, you spoke about the community centers, the libraries that'll be open, but I imagine that it's also important to find a quiet spot within a house, within a home, where students can work. Tell us a little bit about what that workspace should look like.
Yes. Okay, so I have been encouraging my students and my parents to kind of just identify a space or an area in your home where you can work. This place, ensure that it's well organized, so not a whole lot of clutter, not a whole lot of unnecessary things around that can distract you. So minimize the amount of distractions in the area. If a television, don't have to be present. If it is there, make sure that it's turned off, things like that. Non-essential stuff, don't have it around. Your cell phone, games, etc. And then, of course, have your essential stuff, your essential tools and your essential materials nearby, so it's accessible. So your books, your pens, your pencils, your calculator if you're doing a math class. So have these things nearby. And what I have been encouraging students this time around is, be creative, personalize the space, put up your favorite quote or put up a picture that inspires you, so it gets you motivated at the start of the day. Or if you somewhere down in the middle of the day you just feel exhausted or overwhelmed, you could just take a look at that quote or take a look at that picture and then feel inspired again to continue on.
For sure. I imagine that it's so important that students and parents really find something that they can pull from and draw on, that they find inspiring, motivating, so that they can get through the learning experience. And so very, very important tips for creating a work and study environment. And so tell us a little bit about the routine. What routine do you think that students and parents should undertake when going through this new environment? In school, there would have been a particular structure that students would follow. And so how can parents mirror a similar structured environment that they would have had in school?
Okay, so together with the child, because you want the child to get involved as much as possible, because you don't want it to come across as you dictating to them or telling them what to do. Kids like to have like to play a role in this whole process as well. So together you can work on a daily schedule. Okay. I said to my kids a couple days ago, normally, if we were going back to school, I'm up at 5 a.m. in the morning getting prepared so I can be out of my house by 7 a.m. to beat that morning traffic to get to school on time. But now I get to sleep in a little later. And so I start my day off at 7 instead of starting it off at 5. Okay, so you want to set a time the child gets up and get prepared for the day. And ensure that they get breakfast, and about 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the online classes begin, get the child to settle down, gather the materials in the workspace so that when the day starts, they're already in position, they have all the things that they need, etc., right in place. And then, of course, I know for my school, we're going to continue to follow the time schedule as if they were in the regular school setting or in the regular classroom. And so there are some schools who will be doing that, and there are some schools who may be doing things a little bit differently. So just follow whatever guidelines that the school give you in terms of the class schedule, and then incorporate other things within the free time to kind of keep the child focused during the day and to keep them engaged. Okay. I would say, that if you want to just cut out the television for a few hours during the day so that, normally a school day is from 9 to 3. So you say, well, there's no television between the hours of 9 to 3. We're just going to focus on schoolwork or focus on some structured activity. So you want to set those kind of boundaries for them coming into the new school year as well.
Yeah, very important. I also like what you said, that it's important that parents and students partner together so that students feel as if they have a stake in their own, destiny and their own learning environment experience, as opposed to one that's mandated and handed down to them. So I think that that's a very wise and astute observation. How can parents then reach out and connect with teachers and guidance counselors if there are any questions as well? What works and what has worked in your experience?
Okay, so during this time, communication is key for all of us in order for this thing to work, in order for us to all succeed at this. So building healthy and strong parent-teachers relationship and communication is going to be good moving forward. And so what I am encouraging teachers and counselors moving forward is that you want to make yourself more accessible to students and parents, because that was a challenge during the first wave, that we weren't accessible. In the school, the parent or the student could just walk into your office if they're having an issue, but we didn't have that. It's either sending me an email or trying to call me on my phone. So just making yourself more accessible, using the various different virtual platforms that are out there, setting up Zoom meetings, setting up a Google Classroom where parents can just, at a touch of a button, just send you a message or enter your live chat so that they can communicate with you. So that's very essential. I know that the Ministry of Education and the Department of Health has also made available hotlines and other numbers that parents and students can contact, if they are encountering challenges or they hit a roadblock. Okay, essentially the ownership is going to be on parents and students to reach out, because we won't know what the issues are, we won't know what the challenges are if you don't let us in. Parents, you are our eyes and our ears right now, because normally we'll interact with the child and we're able to pick up on certain cues from the child in the classroom or around, their interaction with their peers, but we won't be able to see these things anymore, hear these things anymore. So you want to be our eyes and our ears, and it's your responsibility to get in contact with us and let us know what's going on so that we can come up with solutions together on how we're going to make the situation better for the child in order for learning to take place.
Yeah, as you say, that parent-teacher connection is critical. That's the only way that this is going to work if there are any challenges that we're going to face. I would imagine that in another challenge that students face is social media. Kids are on everything: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and the list goes on and on. And so the distractions are many. What strategies do parents have to disconnect or to separate students away from kids' social media accounts, at least during school hours? How important is that?
Okay, so I'm kind of old school, right? And something that my parents did when I was in school can be a suggestion that parents do now, which is you want to block access to certain websites, the entertainment websites or the non-educational website. You want to block access to those websites on your computer. There's ways that you can do that. Okay. Have the child disable their social media accounts. That's another avenue that you can take. Also, you can monitor the child regularly through the day. Check in. And don't just walk in the room and see them in front of the computer. You get in front of the computer and see what they are doing. And we need as adults, moving forward, because these kids are smart with technology, and they will have ways. They know ways on how to trick us, right? And so we got to equip ourselves by becoming a little bit more tech savvy. I have to become a little bit more tech savvy during this time as well. Become more tech savvy and become more digital literate, so that we know the ins and outs of things. Open up the history, the browse history, and see if they were doing their work or they were online doing something else. So those are some things that parents can do moving forward.
The economy is opening up, and there are parents who can work from home, but those in the service industry or the healthcare industry don't really have that liberty. You spoke a little bit about community centers as well as some libraries that are open. How else can parents get some support when they're maybe at work and the children may have to be at home, or there's some reliance on the part of the student to just make this learning experience happen?
Okay, so it pretty much goes back to two things I had mentioned earlier. Is you have to build a parent-teacher communication. So it's important that you communicate these things with your child's teacher and with your child's school, and find out what are some things that they can do to help accommodate these specific needs. Like, I know that there are teachers who pre-record their lessons, or who actually record their live lessons for students who may miss a lesson. They're able to have access to it at a later time and a later date. So just communicate these things. Okay. Also, becoming more community minded, establishing support systems outside of your home, so there are trusted and reliable persons that you can depend on, during those times when you are away from home and your child has to work independently at home, that they can help monitor your child or even supervise your child during that period as well. For younger kids who may not work independently, assign the tasks that they can do on their own while you're at work. And then the tasks that they're not able to do on their own, you can work on it together during the times that you're off, or during the times when you are home. So yes, it just basically goes back to building a relationship with your teacher and the school, and building relationships within your community, and using the resources that are out there.
With the pandemic, things have definitely slowed down, and so this is an opportunity for us to redevelop and reconnect our relationships with other family members, our neighbors, just so that we can lean on one another for support, just so that we can make sure that our students are learning and getting the right kind of information that they need to succeed in the world. You touched on students who had learning, or who have learning and behavioral issues. I would imagine that the learning experience is a bit different for them. What strategies and what solutions are available for parents whose students may have some of these particular challenges?
Okay, so once again, communicating with the teacher and communicating with the counselor. Okay, you have to let us know, what you see working at home and what you do not see working at home. Let us know, and then we will be able to provide you with the information and provide you with the resources that can help you manage the child and manage whatever challenges that they are having at that time as well. And additionally, we would be able to make the appropriate referral, because there are a lot of resources available within our communities that, you know, parents and students are not aware of that they can access. So if you can communicate, you know, it all goes back to communication. Once you're able to communicate things, we can provide you with the necessary information, resources, refer you to people who are in your community nearby to you who can help you get through certain challenges. I know with me, as a counselor working with my students, you know, and this is something that teachers and counselors can do moving forward with, I identified who my high-risk students were. I identified who those kids were who were having the most difficult time. And, you know, you create a list, and each day I assign, well, on this day, I'm going to work with this group of students. On the next day, I'm going to work with another group of students. And so that's how I use my time during the day. Contacting those kids, contacting those parents, find out, you know, checking in, what's going on, what can I help you with, things like that. Those are the things that we can do moving forward to minimize some of the challenges, especially with our behavioral students and those students who have academic challenges moving forward.
Andranique Evans-Bethel, it has been a pleasure. You've shared with us some great tips and solutions for parents and students, and even teachers and guidance counselors in the virtual learning environment. Again, thank you so much for joining us on Forward, Upward, Onward Together. What other tips, solutions, anything else you want to share with us before we take off?
Yes, and so we are all in this. I know that our situations are unique, but I'm sure that every household, you know, students, teachers, parents, we can say that we are having some type of challenge in this new virtual learning environment. So take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and I definitely believe that we can get through it. And you know what? Have fun with it, right? Be creative and just have fun with it.
Andranique Evans-Bethel, thank you. If any of our viewing audience would like to contact you, where can they reach you?
Okay, you can reach me via email. My email address is andraniqueSevans@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook by my name, Andranique Evans-Bethel. And you can also find me on Instagram, authentically_Andranique.
Andranique Evans-Bethel, thank you so much. This is Carrie Turnquist for Forward, Upward, Onward Together as a part of RBNTV. Thank you very much. Be safe. Have fun in the learning environment.
You're watching RBNTV. We are networking, promoting, we're scoring points for you, proclaiming